Hey, it's Nate, and today I am doing Hey Bulldog by the Beatles. I've gotten a surprising number of requests for this. It's sort of an overlooked and perhaps underrated Beatles song, but it seems to be getting its due over the years. This tune is just so much fun, and it's built around an awesome piano riff. Let's jump in. Okay, so first off, I recommend you get the chords and lyrics chart. There's a link down in the description that's going to help you follow along and see where the chords and lyrics line up with each other. But the main piano part that I bet a lot of you came here to learn does not use chords. It is a riff, and it sounds like this. So let's start there. Let's start out with the first measure. Here's the notes for that, and I'll get into the rhythm later, although you might be able to just get it by ear. But we're gonna start on a B, and this is middle C here, so a little over an octave lower than that. With the right hand, I've got my first finger on B, and we've got B, B, D, B, E, B. So there's a lot of back and forth, the D, B, E, B, starting with two Bs. B, B, D, B, E, B, and then finally F, and then F sharp. That little chromatic moment there sounds really cool. Now, the fingering here is tricky. There's no really comfortable way to do it with the right hand. If you were to step up to your fifth finger on that F sharp, it feels really awkward, and it doesn't feel good to just move the same finger up either. So I like doing fourth finger on that F, and then for the F sharp, crossing the third finger over. You could also do 5 to 4 there. So it's going to be B, B, D, B, E, B, F, F sharp, using my second finger on that D. One more time. B, B, D, B, E, B, F, F sharp. Okay. And in the left hand, it's the exact same thing, but it actually works out a little bit better with the fingers to just cross the second finger over to the F sharp. Now, I would spend some time getting each hand really comfortable with the fingers and everything before putting them together. So like I said, you might be able to get that rhythm just by listening, but let's get precise about it. To count it out, you need to think in 16th notes. We are in 4/4 time, so overall in the song, we're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, but we're going to divide that beat into 4, 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a. And the first 4 notes are just on the eighth notes, the main counts and the ands. We've got 1E and a, 2E and a, so that E is the first 16th note, and a, 3E and, so 16th note there as well. 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a, so big space between the F and the F sharp. At least it feels that way when you slow it way down. 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a. So just loop that a while until you can speed it up. But then there is a second measure of that riff that sounds like this. So here's the notes for that. It's the exact same rhythm, and it's super similar. B, B, D, B. So exact same thing there, but we're going to go straight to the F sharp after that B, and then down to B, and then F. So the F sharp and the F are reversed in their order, and it happens a little earlier before hitting the E on that final note. B, B, D, B, F sharp, B, F, E. And for the right hand on this, I actually like to just use the fourth finger for both those notes. It's not a problem going down as much as going up, and you have the B between them this time to sort of get into position. So here is the full riff, the 2 measures. Okay, and then the song starts with that happening 3 times. It starts out just the piano, but then bass and guitar come in as well. And on solo piano, it can sound really cool for the right hand to be up an octave. So what I'm going to do to start this song is the first 2 repetitions of the 2 measure part I'm going to do down here. And then just for the final one before the verse starts, I'm going to move my right hand up an octave. So it's going to sound like this. So that would be the verse starting. And by the way, I am not using the sustain pedal at all on this riff, just keeping it clean. But going forward for all of the sections with singing where we're playing chords, I will be using the pedal in the usual way, holding it down but giving it a little lift every time you land on a new chord. So let's check out the verse. Here are the chords for that, and the hands can start where we started the riff initially. And we've got a B7 like that. We've got B, D sharp, F sharp, and A in the right hand. And you can do a B bass note to start. We'll add a little bit of a bass line in a sec. And then we've also got an F sharp minor up here a little bit higher, just root position, F sharp, A, and C sharp. And then I'm doing an F sharp bass note. Now the main rhythm is just quarter notes in the left hand and eighth notes in the right hand. So dividing the beat in half, thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you kind of can emphasize the regular counts more than the eighth notes in between. And then the left hand just hits on the counts. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I think that sounds pretty good. Although there is a little bit more with the left hand that we can add. So if you'd like to add that, it's going to be going back and forth between the root and the fifth, so the outside notes of the main triad, but we're going to go down to the fifth instead of up to the fifth. And just on 1, 2, 3, 4. So F sharp and B. I like second and fifth for that shape. And then for the F sharp, you can do the same fingers. It's going to be F sharp, and then the fifth of that chord was the C sharp, doing it down here. Sheepdog, standing in the rain. Bullfrog, doing it again. Okay, let's look at that next line. Some kind of happiness is measured out in miles. So we've got this A, and here we're going to stop doing the back and forth bass line. And I'm just going to hit octaves on each of those counts. If you can't stretch the octave, maybe just do the lower one, whichever sounds better for your piano. But for this A, I'm doing an inversion on E, A, and C sharp. So the C sharp right above middle C is the top note there. And we've just got 2 counts of that, and then F sharp minor, just like we voiced it before, and then 2 counts of E major root position, E, G sharp, and B, before we turn it into an E7 just by dropping the root here down to a D. And then it starts to repeat that again, A, 2, F sharp minor, 2, but then this time, instead of going to the E, we go to the B7 for a full measure, and that's where it returns to the back and forth bass line vibe. One thing I wanted to mention is for this B7, because you're doing the B here, this B is a little extraneous. I believe that John played that B, and I'm mostly going to be trying to play it, but just these top 3 notes sounds pretty darn good. And sometimes when I'm transitioning into that B7, I might hit those at first and then kind of start adding that in. It's a little easier to land on that, so you can be a little bit loose with it. Let me play that verse one more time slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and sheepdog, standing in the rain. Bullfrog, doing it again. Some kind of happiness is measured out in miles. What makes you think you're something special when you smile? And then it would go into the second verse. Same thing, just different words. After that second verse, we have the chorus, which I think is my favorite part of the song. You can talk to me chords for that, the same rhythmic feel is going to apply. The eighth note's in the right hand, the quarter note pulses in the left. And each of the first two lines starts with a minor chord and then just steps up the top note. So we start with B minor, which is cool because we've been on a B major, dominant 7 chord. Now suddenly it flips and we're minor. So that's B, D, and F sharp. I'm using my 5th finger on a single B bass note in the left. Now this next chord, if I just saw this in isolation, I would call this an inversion of G and with a B bass note. So it would be a G/B chord, but in this context, you really hear it as a B minor with a sharped 5th, just taking that 5th up a half step. Both are correct names. B minor sharp 5 is kind of a weird way to name it, but it just feels right in the context of this part, because then we bring it up a half step higher to the B minor 6 with a G sharp there, before finally doing the B minor 7 with an A on top. And I often end up landing on 1, 3, 5 for the B minor, but everything else feels better with a 2nd finger there. So either start with your 2nd finger there or kind of shift it as you go. And it's 2 counts per chord, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we go to E minor. That's E, G, and B. You could just do 2nd finger here. This isn't so low that the octaves sound bad, unlike the B. So you could also do octaves here. I think I might do that actually. So E minor, then sharp that 5th from the B to the C. So E minor, sharp 5, and the C sharp to be the E minor 6, E minor 7. Now finally we've got this B minor 7 flat 5 to E minor. That's going to be lonely, you can talk to me. For the B minor 7 flat 5, we're going to do a B bass note here. I actually like using 5th finger for that. And in the right hand you can essentially do a D minor chord, D, F, A, like that. A lot of people play this just a B diminished chord, but on the recording I do hear that A in there. And so that's 1, 2, then E minor. Really easy in the right hand to just step that D minor up to the E minor chord, and then we're gonna, of course, land back into the riff. Let me do a slow playthrough on that chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can talk to me. You can talk to me. You can talk to me. Okay, so after that chorus, we have 2 times through the riff. Now, there's a higher guitar doing it this time. I am going to, for this one in the middle of the song, just jump straight to the right hand up the higher octave. And then, like I said, twice. And then we are in the main verse progression again. This time it is the guitar solo. So maybe you have a guitar player to solo, but there's no singing here. So here's the chords. You're gonna go through that whole progression, and that just goes straight into the last verse. So, big man walking in the park. And then after that verse, we have another chorus, just like the first chorus. And just like the first chorus, we're gonna come out of it with 2 times through the riff. Now this time I am gonna have the right hand down the octave because I don't hear that high guitar on the recording. So it just does that twice before we get to the outro. And you have some decisions to make for the outro. The outro is a little tricky to arrange for solo piano because that is where the main chords come back. Here's the chords for it. It's just back and forth between the B7, just like we had done it in the verse with the left-hand bass line, and that's where with the Hey Bulldog. So that piano is going on the recording, but then there's guitar also doing the riff over it, adding a new variation on the riff that plays on the F sharp minor. And that feels like it's also kind of important to that section. Let me show you what the riff does for those measures of F sharp minor. So you move down here for F sharp, and then here's the rhythm and the notes. It's the same rhythm as the other ones. We got F sharp, A, F sharp, C sharp, F sharp, C, B. I like using my fourth finger on each of those in the left hand. Like second finger there. So one thing you could do would be something like this. Where you do just pulsing bass notes in the left hand to hammer home the fact that these chords are happening underneath while just doing the right hand riff. What I'm gonna do is start the outro by just doing the chords while I sing through the 4 repeats where they do the "Hey Bulldog." But then once I'm done with those 4 times through, I'm gonna go to just the riff with the F sharp minor. And then of course, we need a way to end it, right? Because the recording just fades out. So after doing that a couple of times, I might just end like that. Just hit a B7. I think that sounds cool, but you got to kind of problem solve at the end here for your arrangement. I gave you some options. Do whatever sounds cool to you. All right, thank you for sticking with me. I am now going to do a full playthrough so you can see how all these parts fit together. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click the bell so you know when I put out more videos just like this one. Here's my version of Hey Bulldog.
Sheepdog, standing in the rain. Bullfrog, doing it again. Some kind of happiness is measured out in miles. What makes you think you're something special when you smile? Childlike, no one understands. Jackknife in your sweaty hands. Some kind of innocence is measured out in years. You don't know what it's like to listen to your fears.